Other interesting political news, we have Ford angry at the UK government because they won't ban ICE engines fast enough. Heaven forbid the consumer actually get to choose what product they get and how they dictate the market. Now, this comes from an article from Electrek, which I would say B minus. It's kind of stupid, but kind of funny. Their website is quite literally called Electrek, Leectrek. It's kind of clever, I guess. But then they're not so cool because they only have a .co and not a .com. And if you're in America, you know the OG, the cool people all have the .com. Like toppingtechnologies.com, where you can get that free flamethrower with every September purchase. Unless you live, I believe, in California, you can't have it there. But in most freedom-loving states, you can get a flamethrower. And you can mount it to your AR-15, as every cool accessory can and should be. But nevertheless, it looks like, specifically, talking to Ford UK's managing director, Lisa Brankin. Now, she said, and again, this is coming from the UK maybe delaying the 2030 ICE car ban. This saying might be a mistake. Now, she says, quote, "Our business needs three things from the UK government: ambition, commitment, and consistency," unquote. What she really says is, we need the government to bully our competition to stop making profitable vehicles to go EV, because we're losing money on EVs. And again, it is kind of, in terms of the government, they're the ones forcing the automotive companies to do this. This isn't the free market. You're seeing the same thing in the United States. They're not banning V8s in the United States. What they're doing, technically, it's kind of a de facto ban, they're increasing exponentially the tailpipe emission standards of the fleet of vehicles that you manufacture. So they're so arbitrarily high in terms of the requirements to meet that efficiency, you can't have it outputting so much stuff. The only way to realistically get there with the technology we have right now is to have your fleet have EVs in it, because that will, again, offset your fleet average of emissions. So it's a de facto ban in the United States, unfortunately. Now, Miss Brankton added, quote, "A relaxation of the 2020 would undermine all three," unquote. And this statement comes as the British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, is expected to delay the government's clean energy policies this week, which I pray he does. Because one of the nice things about internal combustion engines, besides, lasting a quarter of a century or a million miles if it's a Toyota, but they're also great for people who don't have a lot of money. Again, eventually we will have, Tesla's right now working on a $25,000 car. It might happen probably within the next maybe 24 months, perhaps. But then you have to think about, what's it cost to maintain that? What's the ROI after the battery breaks and it's worth 20 grand? Because the battery costs as much as the car. I always tell people, for low-income folks or people who are just conscious for their money like myself, the best ROI you can get is a Toyota or a Honda, preferably with 3 pedals, also known as a stick-shift manual transmission, with an internal combustion engine. It'll last a quarter of a century or a million miles. And nicely enough, your neighbor Bob down the street can fix it, if he's so inclined. Independent support from third parties is quite prevalent. With an EV, you have one person who could fix it, the manufacturer. Just like a smartphone. It's actually worse than a smartphone in terms of being locked in. Thereby, they can charge as much as they want because it's a monopoly. Your one vehicle can get fixed by one person. Tesla. There are some people trying to have third-party repair shops, but then Tesla nukes your capabilities to actually do the quick charging, and your warranty's gone, and there's no more support, and you can barely get parts. So that's my small soapbox rant on the ICE engine for the day. Not too big. Perhaps an orange crate or an orange box would be most sufficient in terms of the box size, but nevertheless, had to be said. Now, it looks like the Ford UK chair is urging the pushing back to the 2030 timeline would be a mistake, saying, quote, "This is the biggest industry transformation in over a century, and the UK 2030 target is a vital catalyst to accelerate forward into a cleaner future." She's, unquote. Again, it's from Lisa, which is a nice way of saying, hey, you told us we had to stop making profitable, good cars. You told us, you're forcing us. You said we won't be allowed to make ICE engines or internal combustion engines by 2030. Now, it looks like the delay comes only 3 years after the government announced its intentions to transition to new EV cars and van sales by 2030. Which is a very nice way, very political way of saying, we're taking away your ability to choose the vehicle you want. You'll own nothing and like it. What they say. Looks like And why might Ford why are they really upset? Aha. Ford recently invested $355 million into its UK development and manufacturing facility, and the company says it has further funding planned for the 2030 timeframe. Looks like in 2021, the American automaker announced that 100% of its passenger vehicles in Europe will be all electric by 2030. Ford increased its investment, $471 million, in its Halewood plant last year to build EV components and support the shift. She continues to complain, of course, quote, "We need the policy focused on bolstering the EV market in the short term and supporting consumers while headwinds are strong. Infrastructure remains immature, tariffs loom, and cost of living is high," unquote. Which is all the reasons you should just get an internal combustion engine. Yeah, we need you to bully the other manufacturers. We need you to coercively manipulate the market so people are forced to buy our product. It looks like Ford unveiled the electric version of the Explorer in Europe for March, its best-selling SUV. The electric Ford Explorer is expected to start at $49,500 and will come out next summer for all three people who actually want it. So it costs $49,500 start. That's if you have, I would suppose, steel rims and cloth seats. Maybe only three wheels at that price point. Again, it starts there. It goes to the moon. Now it looks like the automaker plans to have 9 EVs in Europe line up by 2024, including 4 passenger vehicles and 5 crossover vans. Passenger EVs include the electric Puma. No, again, I did a fact check. No affiliation with the shoe brand, which is kind of pathetic. It would have been a brilliant idea, business brilliance, I would say, to say, hey, buy a Ford Puma, get a free pair of Puma, sneakers. It would have been brilliant, but of course, we can't expect too much from creative marketing these days. Not most companies are pretty boring. Not all of them give away free flamethrowers like Topping Technologies. Well, that's just me. Now, they also have the EV. That was a bad taste in my mouth. The Mustang E-Mach, which is the bastardized cousin of the traditional Ford Mustang. In name only, they're related. Ford Mustang, of course, is infamous for winning the Pony War. The Camaro is dead. The Charger is going to be an EV, apparently. Yeah, it's the only pony remaining. And it still has a V8 and a stick shift, which I do admire Ford for doing. I applaud them for that. It's a rare feat these days. And it'll be interesting to see. This whole situation shows how important it is to be involved in politics. Politics, as a wise man once said, you might not be interested in politics, but politics is very interested in you. And this further shows kind of my core concept of the show, of showing how governments have gotten so big, pretty much every business is affected by them, for better or worse. From my perspective, I would argue usually worse, because it's forcing them to do things that the free market isn't agreeing with. You look at consumer preferences in the United States, consumer sentiment has changed a lot towards hybrids. The percentage of Americans considering hybrids has increased a lot. Granted, that technology has been around for a few decades. It's a little more proven, so to say. Although, from my perspective, I would say it's still ridiculous because, again, like a Prius, after about 80,000 miles, the battery's dead. And that's the majority value of the car. Now it's worthless. Well, I should say worthless. It runs just like an internal combustion engine Honda Civic because the Prius, it's a hybrid. It has both drivetrains. So the value of the car is basically bunked because the battery's dead. So in terms of my long-term ROI, personally, I prefer the ICE engine and the stick shift, though I know I'm definitely not in the majority. I know more and more people acquiesce to the automatic transmission and the EV, but this old soul prefers having 3 pedals and a stick, as all cars I would argue should have. What Ford will do from here, it'll be interesting to see. Time shall tell. Thank you again for taking the time to tune in. Again, I know it's ambitious, but we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of September. So if you could click that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, all of the comments help the channel grow and develop, and the feedback is much appreciated, whether it's critiquing how I can improve my speaking abilities, or it's suggesting new software where we can do picture-in-picture in real-time production, so we could incorporate some of these clips into the production of the show as well. All the feedback is greatly appreciated. And of course, leaving a like also helps with the algorithm and gets more people to tune into the show, and it helps out as well. Also, lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.